This is the Power of OZmosis podcast, powered by the Vidwheel Creator Network. Hi, everyone. This is the Power of OZmosis video podcast. I am John Osberg, aka Johnny OZmosis, and my intro is slightly different because normally it's powered by Vidwheel Creator Network, but today I can say it's powered by Vidwheel Creator Network, but mainly by this gentleman on the screen, Mr. Neil Carroll. My brother, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, John. And thanks for the intro. We're happy to support OZmosis.
Well, support is an understatement, and I know you're a very humble man. But I mean, I a lot of what I do involves this kid, and so for your support and guidance and mentorship and friendship, I've been able to do some pretty cool things with OZmosis in 8 months. So again, I always start with your company's name and finish with gratitude to you and the team. But here you are on the show. And with that said, before we dive into things, this is going to be a video or audio kind of mini playbook on how to find your steady state and how to pivot through adversity. Because Neil is a living, breathing example of that, someone that inspires me. And watching what he's done in his business. And again, even just his steady state, his baseline state that I talk about in some of my other podcasts and some of my content about how to be in the middle, how to be in the neutral. And you can spike up for good things, but come right back down to neutral. And if there's a lull, you come right back to the center as fast as you can in order to self-preserve. So Neil, why don't you tell the audience a bit more? I know Vidwheel Creator Network's all over my stuff, but maybe more about what you are all about and what the company's all about.
Sure. Well, what am I all about these days? I guess there's a lot of childcare involved there, trying to, do the Vidwheel and Creator Network thing around the edges and, punching out a little bit of time in the middle of the day. And then the company itself, we used to be really focused on, pretty traditional video production company type projects, right? We'd go on site, we'd shoot things, we'd travel, we'd shoot things, we'd create interview videos, we do that kind of thing. And through the pandemic, we really took a pretty hard pivot to change that so that now we are enabling our clients to create the best possible content that they can in their home or office. So that's kind of what we're up to, and that's what the Creator Network is meant to do. And I can go deeper, or I'll let you run the interview.
Well, you said, "Oh, you're good, brother," and I appreciate that. What you said though just prompted me, and I'll ask you as what I would consider a Zoom aficionado or expert, maybe semi-expert, whatever. Can I change my cameras while we're recording? I think I can, right?
Yeah, you can. In Zoom itself, sure, you can pop between cameras.
Cool.
Yeah, you're going to do the comparison?
Yeah, we're recording. This is going to be good. I got to make sure I got nothing weird on my desk. So again, just kind of unpacking briefly, not briefly, but what Neil is all about, what Vidwheel, Creator Network, Vidwheel LLC, what they're all about here in Buffalo, New York. This is a great, just real-time use case for how really important and significant it's been for me in terms of my professional kind of aesthetics, my appeal. And so here you go. So right now I'm sitting on the Vidwheel Creator Network looking pretty sharp, even though it's me and my bearded face. And here's what I would look like without Vidwheel. Wow. Yeah. So I don't know. It's not even good. I don't even want to stay on this camera. I never use it. So I'm going to go back to Vidwheel, and there we go. That's much better. So I had to do that in the beginnings there, but I want to then come back to you, Neil. And I just thought of that organically, and come back to So I've known you, Neil, for quite a while, many years now. You've been a fixture in the startup, entrepreneurial, tech kind of renaissance that we've seen. And you had hinted on then the pivot, right? So again, how do we find a steady state through adversity, and how do we pivot? Kind of they're combined in a sense. So it's how do we stay in the middle while we're going through adversity, and then how do we then come out of that adversity so that we can make a proper guided pivot. So why don't let's unpack part one, which is how have you found your steady? How are you so steady and so in the middle?
Well, let's see. I mean, I guess a part of it is trying to plan for what's coming up, right? Like you alluded to, or I brought up the fact that we had to do a pretty significant pivot for my company, and that was just kind of, I guess taking stock of what was about to happen. A big piece of what made me had to shift so much was that I'm really tied to my home office and my home in general right now, because my my two small kids are home, and I'm picking up a lot of the childcare duty. So the idea of going to the office every day and stuff had to shift. The idea of having big blocks of time to do production work had to shift. So knowing that that was all going to happen, I mean, it happened like that, right? Like COVID hit overnight. So there was a bit of adjustment there and so on. But the plan going forward, when it was time to plan and like strategically figure out what could still work as a business, was built around that. So I guess maybe it's about recognizing what adversity you're going to face and then trying to plan around it. And that helps you definitely kind of, I think, be in that middle area that you're talking about without, feeling like if I tried to continue to do business the way I had been, I would have been, I would not be able to stay centered. Yeah,
you're extinct, brother.
Right, I mean, right.
You would definitely not be in the middle.
No, I would not be in the middle. I would either be trying to do way too much in way too little of time. And I will say that I've even adjusted what I've done over the past year quite a bit to better fit, right? Like it would be like, well, I can fit this, this, and this into this space. And then I would get real stressed out about trying to fit all that stuff in. And I've shifted the way that we do things to accommodate what the reality is around here, right? So
beautifully summarized. I mean, I want to extract a couple things, or even more than a couple things. So first, audience, our millions, I got to get that in there, our millions of watchers and listeners, keep putting that out there, law of attraction. The first thing you said was prepare. Right. So there's the famous phrase, if you don't prepare to plan if you don't, I always screw this up. If you go ahead, do you have any other, if you don't prepare,
right. If you
planning to fail or something, off the top of my head.
If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. That's
you heard that from Neil.
Close version. Yeah.
That's it. And so it's important then that plan. But I think even before planning, in a sense, right? If we were to put this in order of operations, I think the other thing you then said was the recognition of the situation, right? Good, neutral, or bad. In this case, negative. And so, Neil, for you to be able to there's a word that I love using, is objective, right? I use these two filters in my own life and say, does this serve me, right? And is this the right thing? Does this serve me and others? And is this the right thing for me and others? And the answer has to be objective. Because if it's not objective, then guess what? You're going to output whatever it is you want to do that's subjective, which is open to opinion. But if we use fact and what's right versus wrong, black and white, that's what you did there. So you saw that this was happening, Neil, and you were able to then recognize, and it didn't feel good, I'm sure, to go from working with some big name businesses all on-prem with that, with these teams in person, with all this sweet production gear set up, to then have to say, I got to now go to the home office and pretty much exclusively stay there and figure out how the heck do I keep this thing running? So there's first recognizing and being objective. then planning, which is what we keyed in on at the beginning of this, is what you mentioned first. And I think really those two play well off each other also, that it's like, okay, here's the reality of what's happening. Now, how do we find our way out of this? How do we move our way out of this? I don't know. What do you think to that? If there's anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think you've got it right. The and maybe that was something that that I think it can be hard for a lot of folks to be objective like that. And I probably struggled with it early on in this journey too, where I don't know, a lot of folks for a long time, I think, were waiting for things to come back to normal, right? And that's I think still something that, some businesses are trying to do, and some businesses might go back to normal or some version of normal. But I saw it, partly as a need to kind of go and do that, and partly as an opportunity, right? That's the other piece that I think maybe is important here, is you can create different opportunities by like kind of looking at things a little bit differently.
Being opportunistic, audience, being opportunistic, right? And sharpening your focus. It's something that I think we can all do. And I'm just being additive. I apologize, Neil. I get excited. Right. It's like, if mortality is near, what likely happens? Something I thought about on my bike ride yesterday. It's the exact same thing you're saying. Not I'm trying to take the spotlight away, but riding on a bike in streets, paths, cars, and everything, potholes. I'm on a road bike, so really tight tires. What happens? It's something I literally thought of yesterday. It's like my focus was sharpened. It's like I was seeing the world differently. So in this sense, with career, with business, with health, with family, there are things that are going to happen that are going to sharpen your focus, and you have to recognize that you have to sharpen your focus, and then make sure that you're seeing the world through a different lens. It's almost like different, like literally like, I got glasses, right? So if I want to see a little better, I throw these guys on. Let's think about a proverbial set of lenses and filters that we can use in everyday life to say, okay, here's a problem or here's an opportunity. Let's throw on a lens that we can see this through.
Sure. Yeah. And just
got me excited.
To speak to that even more, I guess the forcing, a workday into like a very compressed time frame, or having to push things off to the ends of the days, does that, just kind of out of necessity, right? So then it's like, well, I got to get this done. It's the whole rocks and pebbles. I'm sure everybody's familiar with that analogy by now, but like it forces you to figure out what your rocks are and know what has to get done and what can maybe, fall off to the side a little more. And it's not going to hurt your business. But it's, stuff that maybe you eventually either find out a way to do it more efficiently or, hire out for. But it definitely helps you prioritize purely out of necessity when you have these like, really constricted time frames.
What did you say on our podcast that we just recently did? It had to do with necessity. Do you remember that phrase you dropped on me that I loved?
No.
No.
Is it quotable?
Necessity is the mother of all invention.
Oh yes. Okay. That's one I use a lot. Yeah.
And I love it. And I jack it up because I couldn't get the plan to prepare or whatever. I still can't get it right. I don't know why. But that's something that stuck with me in the pod that I was on your show. Yep. Right. So jumping around a little bit, but I was on your show not long ago. We were talking about how to become a content creation center, 3 C's. Yep. How to leverage vulnerability and creativity, imagination, and passion, all to then create great content that will resonate. And in that chat on your show, on the vidwheel Smarter Business podcast, we talked about that, and it's true. And that's exactly part of your ethos and your origin story with this. Now, basically, it's a podcast. It's a podcast in a suitcase, a podcast set up in a suitcase. Is that kind of how you say it?
Yeah. I usually, go studio in a box, right? For your home or office, because, a lot of folks, podcasting is super popular right now, and a lot of folks are starting them. Yeah. You've got the beta version there.
Oh,
we've
shoot.
got much nicer cases now.
Hey, come on now. I got to get the new stuff, yo. No, I'm kidding, man. I'm just so grateful for that. It could be in a plastic bag and I would take it. I'm grateful.
A
I'm grateful.
garbage bag full of gear.
I'm all good with it, man.
I'll shoot you an image of the newest setup.
Great.
Yeah, it's a little slicker, but same idea. You got the you got the backpack version. We've got kind of a Pelican case sort of suitcase that works well for it's off-brand Pelican to be fair, monoprice.
Brands are marketing, brother. Yeah. It's all marketing. Yeah, say it. Just get the good stuff.
But it works well for out-of-town participants and stuff too, right? Because I can FedEx that out to them. And some of the other stuff that we've done with Kitwise and stuff is we have done remote shooting for some of our existing clients, and then we can FedEx out the kit, get stuff shot, have them ship it back, kind of thing. So yeah, you need that extra hard case padding and so on when you're shipping it around, versus just kind of zipping around the area. That works well for you.
So. Yeah, and I could always upgrade. I mean, and maybe while we're at that on this topic, why don't we and we can zig and zag if you want or whatever, just you. Why don't we tell our millions of listeners and watchers what really is made up of vidwheel and this whole subscription and what comes with it, what do you get, kind of thing.
Yeah. So the creator network, I always describe as first I talk about it as empowering our, clients, customers to create the best possible video content that they can. We've got clients who are doing anything from creating podcasts to just having the super high quality stream on their sales and presentation calls. So we got a lot of different use cases that folks are using the creator network for, but the one kind of common thread is that these are people who are trying to grow and grow their businesses through video as a medium. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but the product itself is a subscription-based network and hardware package that we have that has 3 legs. So the first leg I always talk about is the kit. You and I are both on the kit, though you're in the backpack version. It's all the same gear. It's an M50 camera. It's a Blue Yeti mic and a ring light, and then all the nuts and bolts that kind of help you utilize it. Utilize the hardware as best you can for streaming applications, for video meetings like this one, for podcasts, all that sort of stuff. So the hardware is the first leg of the product. The second is the network itself, which is a closed social media network that we built off of Mighty Networks, where you can have like-minded members come together, show stuff off, ask questions to each other. There's a bunch of educational content on there too. And then we have a lot of live events tied to that as well. So we have two events that are open to the public every month. This upcoming month, June, there's one on the 10th and one on the 24th. And all the content this month is going to be focused on analytics within the creator network. And then the third leg of the product is unlimited consulting. So we figured the best way to make it so that this product is customizable to each member who wants to utilize it is to give them direct access to myself and my staff, so that they can kind of create whatever their video vision is, versus just like a typical course or something like that. So it allows people to kind of mold the creator network in whatever vision they had. There's some basics that kind of everybody learns, but if you had a different vision than user B, doesn't mean you get the exact same kind of education, right? We try to make it a little more malleable for people.
Great word.
So
big kudos. I love the video vision piece there, and the community part too. It's something I didn't highlight in the beginning. I always like to kind of the beginnings of the conversation flavor what we'll talk about. And here we are, entrepreneurship, mindset, resilience, community, business, obviously. So it's, I'm glad you brought that out because it really is. It's great. It is a community. And while we're at the platform community point, just some shout outs to some of the folks that I've recruited in, Nick Koziol and Evan Giokis, our friends at Track, Pat Whalen, Roscoe Naggett. And I know there are several others. I might have forgotten a couple in there. At least maybe I didn't, but I know there are some people that are kind of in the queue.
Yeah, there's some people knocking on the door. So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited for get the floodgates fully broken open. I mean, it's cool to see because it really, video is such a powerful medium. I mean, it's one thing to have, going back to content, it's one thing to have just text. Okay. Right. A picture, cool. With maybe a link, cool. But then a video, man, I mean, it's really powerful. And so then it's nice too, because for me, my show that we're on right now, you guys have you and your staff, have educated me on how to leverage all these other platforms too that have not been really maybe mentioned here. Things like Buzzsprout. I'm not sure if you're still using that. I use it, and I'm paid subscriber to that. And so this show goes out on YouTube. It goes out on my LinkedIn and everything, but then it also goes across all of the major audio only platforms because not everyone wants to sit and watch a video. I think probably if I had to guess, the majority of my following is probably audio only. Well, maybe not audio only. Sorry. That's a mistake. What I meant to say there was that they like to toggle back and forth. I feel like I'm almost like I'm debunking it in a sense, but I'm not. It's a toggling of back and forth, and I do it myself. Sometimes I'm at the desk, like I love throwing on my TV over here, video, but then sometimes I need to just be locked in and maybe have audio. So it's nice to have both though. I think we need to emphasize that because you're empowering the video, but there's an audio component too.
Well, there's I always say that
I'm on video right now.
Right. You want to meet your customer where they want to consume it. Right. And like my personal consumption of podcasts, I'll watch a lot of them on YouTube, but if I'm mowing the lawn, I'm not sitting there watching a video on my phone while I'm doing it, right? I'm listening to that. So like I am one of the dual consumers who does audio sometimes, video other times for the same kind of content stream. So I think that's a big cohort of people, especially now, right? Like I used to be all podcast audio only when I was commuting. I don't commute anymore. So now it's like filling in other parts of my of my day. And, if I have time to sit at the computer and watch a YouTube video, that's something I often do too. So
and I want to be clear too on one thing. I'm sorry to overspeak there, Neil, but I want to make certain that it's driven home that this isn't just a podcast in a suitcase, because that's kind of what I say, since that's what it is for me. But like you said, you're meeting your customers where they are. Yep. And a lot of people are doing courses. A lot of people are doing just clips. Yep. And so forgive me there. I got a little juiced over here by saying
that's all right.
Maybe 2 minutes ago. But I'm one of them though. I do all these clips and stuff. I do little clips for clients. I mean, and that's the thing, man. I've taken the support you've given me and I've turned it into business. I mean, there is no greater use case than that. Well, not just me, but others that are leveraging and monetizing your support and setup to create business, man. It's this beautiful symbiotic, we consume your service and product, your business continues to grow, and then we grow our businesses using your setup. It's beautiful. I got goosebumps, man. I got literal goosebumps. You were going to say something.
Well, that's how it's supposed to work. Yeah. What I was going to say is I was going to go back and actually on a similar point You had
Please.
mentioned how you usually bring up the hardware when you're like talking to other people about it, and or you're able to show off between the cameras or mic tests and stuff like that.
Mhm.
The I have found that that's usually a common way for people to become interested in the creator network, right? Like they're like, oh, I need this higher quality feed. I need to do this. But then the folks who really have like kind of been able to grow their businesses, been able to do a lot more, find that success, are the folks who are coming to the network all the time and consuming the content there, and interacting with other members who are in the group. Those folks are finding great success because
Mhm.
you just have so much. You have the possibility of so much support. You get to learn so much more from your peers than maybe you do just trying to figure it out on your own, or whatever. So I think um, and I was the same way. I went and developed the kit last, well, about a year ago this time, I think, is when I started messing around with developing a kit.
Mm.
And I thought it was going to be all about the gear, and I considered just selling the kits. But then
Mm.
I started thinking about what that customer actually needed, whether they thought they did or not, kind of thing, right?
What you're doing right now, Neil, is you're actually hitting on the pivot piece. I want to just color that,
Yes.
and please continue. I'm sorry. This is the
Right,
pivot
right.
part, folks.
So then I developed the network, and it's like, even with my own experience, I'm finding that the value of the network outweighs the value of the gear. If you never get past the value of the gear and you're just like, well, I needed that gear and I got it and thank you, then like you don't fully get the value out of what we're doing with the vidwheel creator network.
Beautifully said, brother.
So
Beautifully said. I appreciate that. And I've been taking notes here. So we're coming up on time, and I say this
right.
for all of my podcasts because I mean it. This will not be the last. But I wanted to just bring back a couple things
Sure.
that are really. I mean, it's interesting now that we're here in real time. The steady state and the ability to pivot are pretty much married. Because
Sure.
if you're volatile, you might be able to pivot, but is that pivot going to stick? Is that pivot going to be permanent almost, to do a
Right.
little wordplay here? So in order to pivot, audience, we need a steady state. And to be in a steady state will allow you to pivot,
Yeah.
because you're not emotional about things, and removing that, the objectivity, right, Neil?
I would go even further and say that if you're not, if you don't have a steady mindset, you might be able to pivot, but are you going to pivot effectively because of what you touched on, right? Like you can't just make a turn, then make another turn, right? It's all about picking the right turn to make and then staying on that path until something determines that you need to either pivot again or you're on the right path and you kind of keep going forward.
Yeah,
So
good or bad, right? It
yeah,
can be some setback, then allows a comeback,
right.
or it could be market validation. Like for you, man, I mean, you've got a ton of people on. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a lot. I don't know what you think, but
We're
I think
35 at the moment. So
I
yeah,
mean, man,
we're
come on,
moving.
that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, and to know how it works, me, and we don't need to get into the nitty gritty. People can find this out on your website and talk to you and your team. But I mean, to know that you've got 35 individuals, like I said, with several in the gates, I mean, in the
Mhm.
wings, whatever they call it, the wings, it's exciting. And this is just a start, I mean, you're in my link tree thing on purpose on both my Johnny Osmosis link tree and Power of Osmosis. And it's joined me on vidwheel because I mean, and it ties in Danny Miner over at Buffalo Business First, right? I mean,
Mhm.
he, and I'll let you speak on this if you want, but we are nearing our time. I want to be
Sure.
respectful for you. I know you got somewhere to be. You're busy. You're a man
Right.
in demand.
Got to
But
get back to
but
kiddos.
Dan Miner wrote a nice piece about
Right.
you and about your business, and I got a little honorable mention. But it was because I cannot help myself but to beat the drum, Will Ferrell style, on the top of. I want to shout on top of a mountain,
Yeah,
and
right.
about how his love for Veronica Corningstone and Anchorman, but my love for vidwheel creator network is deep, and there's great reason for it, because it's empowered me to continue to grow my business. I'm 8 months into this thing, and I'm doing things I never thought I'd be doing because of people like you, and there are several others who come out of my support, kind of my cast of support, we'll call it. So my gratitude to you, man. I really mean it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, happy to do it. And yeah, to touch on Dan Miner's thing. So Dan Miner's a writer for Buffalo Business First. And Dan called me up or shot me a message. I forget exactly how we got started. And he's like, hey, can I talk to you about this thing? He's like, John's been posting about it like crazy on LinkedIn. So there's the John Osberg effect, right? Like the influence,
the power of osmosis,
right? Yep, the power of osmosis. And then, Dan and I had a great conversation in which he was like, "Oh, wow, so this is a full pivot for you versus just like, adding on another product line." And it has been, and I've, it was a bit of a leap of faith when we did it, right? We kind of almost zeroed out during the pandemic and looked for some ways to move forward. And I knew I was going to have all those scheduling and time type challenges. So it seemed like a good way forward. And it's been good, not only for, getting small businesses empowered with video and getting them into the network like that, but it's opened some other doors. We did a big project, with Techstars in the first quarter that was all based in Japan, right? That would not have been possible with the old model. So it just, the reach that you can have by like kind of rethinking how some of the stuff that is done is another big benefit of it, right? So
well said, brother. Well said. And I want to just do two more things and we'll adjourn. It'll be quick. I want to make certain that this call out to osmosis is not about me. It's rooted in Ubuntu. I am because we are. It's a South African, Zimbabwean mindset, something that you subscribe to. It's you are only as good as me and I'm only as good as you, Neil. And so the power of osmosis isn't Johnny osmosis, right? It's not the power of Johnny osmosis. It's the power of osmosis, which is osmosis, bringing things together to create greatness, to create impact, to create legacy, to create growth. So you've been a major piece to the puzzle for me in helping uplift and connect others. And I'd like to think that I'm doing something in return, as I know I want to do and need to do more and will be. So thank you. And then the last thing, this is something new that came to mind just not long ago, that I'm going to do going from this episode on is, and it's a big question, but I'm looking for a concise answer.
Okay.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little, but not really. And my favorite phrase is keep going. Hashtag keep little under, a little lowercase, whatever, and then big going, uppercase. Neil, what keeps you going, brother?
Oh yeah, man. I got to be concise on this. I mean,
it could be like one thing, a couple things, anything. What keeps you going? What keeps you grinding? What keeps you grinding?
From a professional standpoint, I have always loved the journey of the small business owner, especially creative folks. Like that's where I came out of. I've got the art degree. This whole being in business has been quite the journey of stops and starts and figure it out. And
ups
then
and downs back and forth,
ups and downs back and forth. And then,
hot and cold.
Ultimately it's all about family. So that's the kid duty and stuff that's come out of the pandemic has influenced the way I do business, but that's the reason you do business. So, that is the motivation. That's got to be what comes first. And then, the rest of it kind of fits. I think that's it's got to be the way it goes. That's the way it goes around here. So I like it. Yeah.
I appreciate you letting me put you on the spot there. It came up in the beginning because of the essence, the ethos of this conversation. And again, how to stay in that steady state. So make sure that you be objective, you kind of plan and prepare, and then you focus and get your time right. So that's the kind of recap there. And
Right.
then the pivot, it's symbiotic to, it's symbiotic to steady state. The pivot is really, how do we be objective? How do we be certain that this is an effective move? How do we sharpen our focus and put the customer in mind first? It's not about what you want, Neil. It's about what does the customer want? And that's where objectivity comes in beautifully. Because if you're thinking subjective, you're going to let your opinion, right, affect your decision for your pivot. Like you might have this grandiose dream of doing this, this, and this, but really your target market, your customers want and need this. So those were beautifully answered. It's awesome because we'll wrap up here, but normally I get grateful for and extend gratitude, I should say, to Vidwheel Creator Network. But in this case, I will do it directly to you, brother, because of, your friendship, mentorship, support, and steadiness that I've been inspired by from afar and, from proximity through the screen. So kudos to you, brother. Keep going, keep rocking it. And, I'm excited to be able to put this out to the world to shed more light on the great things Vidwheel Creator Network is doing.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me on. And I love hearing the beginning and the end of all your podcasts powered by
it's well
Vidwheel
done,
Creator Network.
It's funny. It's the power of osmosis powered. There's two powers, but hey, what?
Double
it's
emphasis. Yeah,
it's emphasis, there you go. Baby. But thanks again, Neil. I'll put in the show notes, audience, where to find Neil, where to learn more about what he's doing, how to connect with Neil, how to connect with his team, some use cases, some of his YouTube stuff. It'll all be in the show notes. I'll keep it. I've been getting better at each time, keeping it more condensed because complexity is the enemy of all execution. So I keep it. I'm going to get simpler and conciser by the post. So we got to wrap up, brother. I know we got our calls coming up, but thank you. And we'll talk very soon.
Excellent. Thanks, John.
Keep going. All right, brother.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.